Hello everyone, I'm here to preview the Bears and the Vikings, and offensively the Bears they're okay. They're 16th in total offense, 363.4 yards a game, 20th in passing yards at 243.9 a game. They're 9th in sacks allowed, allowing only 18 over the year. They are 12th in rushing yards per game at 120.1, and they are tied for 15 in yards per carry at 4.3. They're 11th in third down percentage offensively at 43%, and they are also 5th in points per game at 29.9. Defensively, they're pretty good. They're 4th in total defense, allowing 319.6 yards a game, 13th in passing yards allowed at 235.6 a game, 5th in sacks at 30, and they are 2nd in rushing yards allowed at 84, and they are tied for 1st in yards per carry allowed at 3.6. 3rd in third down percentage at 34%, and they are tied for 4th in points per game allowed at 19.4. Their injury report goes as followed. Deion Sims, he's out with a concussion. He's a backup tight end. Bilal Nichols, my bad, not Nicholas. He's a defensive end. He's questionable with a knee. Javon Wims, wide receiver, also questionable with a knee. And even if they're all 100% healthy, I'm not sure how much of an impact all of them make on the final score of this game, even though 2 of them are still probably going to end up being active. And offensively, Minnesota, 12th in total offense per game. They're 374.3, 8th in passing yards at 282.7, and they are tied for 16th in sacks allowed at 24. They are 28th in rushing yards per game at 91.7, but they are tied for 18th in yards per carry at 4.2. They're tied for 17th in third down percentage at 39% and 14th in points per game at 24.6. And defensively, these teams are practically evenly matched. I said they were 4th in total defense. Minnesota's 5th in total defense with 322.2 yards a game allowed. Minnesota is 12th in passing yards allowed at 233.3. They are tied for 1st in sacks at 31, and that's a 4-way tie for 1st. And once you get out of the 4-way tie, Chicago's right there at 30. And then they are 3rd in rushing yards allowed at 88.9 per game. Chicago was 2nd at 84, and they're tied with each other at yards per carry allowed at 3.6. Minnesota is 1st in third down percentage defensively at 26%, and they're 11th in points per game allowed at 22.7. Now, even though Minnesota's coming off the bye, they're a little bit more banged up. And Morgan, he's out with a knee. David Morgan, the tight end. Sendejo still out with his groin. Barr has a hamstring. He's questionable. Compton's questionable with a knee. And Mike Remmers, questionable with a lower back. I do anticipate both Compton and Remmers playing in this game. Whether or not they finish is a different story, but I do think they will both attempt to be a go. I think Morgan being out will be a huge factor later on in the game, and we'll get more into that later. And I think we can survive without Barr or Dejo at this point. I think we've proven that over the past few games when we've had to do that, because even if you look back at the Saint game, we weren't completely lost without those 2. So, offensively, I think this goes without saying, but do whatever you can to try to block Khalil Mack. That'd be cool. He's a game wrecker. Don't let him wreck the game. That probably won't happen. He's going to show up a few times, but you need to do your best to neutralize that. And I do think one of the things that they can do is just to keep things balanced. Just keep it balanced. Prevent them from just pinning their ears back and going. And the other thing that might help is we're probably going to see the return of the screen game this week, which is good. And the reason for that is this pass rush with Khalil Mack, Leonard Floyd, Akeem Hicks, and you got a whole bunch of people here. Eddie Goldman's no slouch either. So you have all these things, and you need to be able to neutralize it. And our offensive line is, we know it's not the best thing, but you can do a lot of misdirection screens, just keep them balanced, all these things just to help out. They're still going to get home every once in a while. I expect that to happen. But one other thing, we need to get Dalvin Cook in space. And I think we saw that the other week when we played Detroit. And we had an actual hole. He just sprinted right through, and we almost had like a 75-yard touchdown. It ended up being a 70-yard run, but it almost was a touch. We ended up getting into the end zone on that drive, and we kind of got the sense that, okay, Dalvin's back. And that's good. Just get him in space, though. I don't want to see any more running him up the middle into all of these defensive tackles and guards. That's not what he is. You get him on the outside, you get him in space. That's what he does. Make people miss. He's fast, he's elusive. Let him run with that. Latavius Murray, you have him for a reason, and that is to run him into the middle. And we can't afford any turnovers in this game. So no fumbles by Dalvin, no fumbles by Kirk, no interceptions by Kirk, no fumbles by Thielen. Just no turnovers. We cannot afford a turnover in this game. This team has, I think the stat is still 89 points off of turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the most in the league that Chicago has. So yeah, prevent that. And I do think run blocking will most certainly be affected by the Morgan injury, because Morgan is our best blocking tight end, and for a team that the weakness is, it's been, it's the offensive line. Everyone's talked about that in terms of, the Viking world here. And Morgan being the best blocking tight end and one of the better blocking tight ends in possibly the whole league, this is a big loss, especially for this game, and a game when they only allow 84 rushing yards a game. And defensively here, you need to pressure Mitch Trubisky, and you need to force him to make the errors and the turnovers. You can't let him beat you necessarily. And part of that is I do not mind if they get beat underneath. I do think this is going to be probably one of those lower scoring games as a whole, and you need to make sure you don't allow the big play, as that could be the one that breaks the back. So you need to do that. And you need to be able to shut down the run game to pretty much force them into that mode where they can't take that big shot play ever and feel comfortable with it. That's part of the whole thing here. This is probably going to be, I'm thinking this might be a pretty boring game overall, but it's going to be a massive game. As we know, whoever wins this game kind of takes control of the North for maybe not the foreseeable future, because, there's still football left to be played. But whoever wins this literally controls their own destiny. All they have to do is keep winning, and they'll be fine. So I don't expect either of these two teams to really be taking that chance of the one that will break the back. So if you can shut down the run game, and we might see more conservatism come out of this Bears offense. And as far as we're concerned, I'm anticipating us to look conservative. We usually go that route. And we really need to force the turnovers this game, because we can't, like I said, we can't afford to have turnovers, but I don't know if we can afford to not cause turnovers in this game. And that's going to be a deciding factor, is that turnover margin. My prediction is I do have Minnesota winning this game by a field goal, 20-17. That's not a very confident thing, though. I view these two teams are very evenly matched. I think we saw that going, especially defensively when I was going through that. They are very evenly matched. And it's likely that whoever does cause the most turnovers in this game is going to win the game. And I know that's the case for most things, but, against the Cardinals, you can have a turnover or two and it'll probably be okay. Against the Bears, you cannot do that. Or against us, in most cases, you also can't do that. But yeah, I'd anticipate this low-scoring game. And a little bonus thing here. Overtime would not shock me in this game. I almost anticipate overtime to be happening in this game. And I know, this game in specific is, it's Probably the biggest one that we have out of these next four, which the next four dictate how this entire season goes. But at the same time, you bring Kirk Cousins here for a reason. That's not second place in the division. And this is why. You go into Chicago against a rising team and you go beat them in Chicago. That's what you do. That's what you're supposed. That's what you are brought here for. And I know some people will say Minnesota hasn't beaten a team with a winning record. The Bears haven't either, so this is kind of like this. Whoever wins this game, it's kind of like the statement win of the year for that team, which is kind of interesting. You don't always get that, and that's what makes this game kind of hard to call, just because we don't know necessarily how this can go when you get two quality teams into there. And it's like one of them has something's got to give there. But I'm going to take Minnesota 2017, and I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. And until next time, I bid y'all adieu.